Good morning, everyone. This is Curtis Hawks with Insurance Agency Marketing Services, and I want to thank you for taking some time with us today. We've got a very important topic today. We're going to be talking about underwriting and underwriting best practices, as well as, in my opinion, I think some of the competitive advantages of North American. I think when I look at this year, there is significant opportunity in the life insurance space, and obviously going through the underwriting process is a component of that. And so I think they've certainly done some things to put them ahead of a lot of their competitors. So we'll be talking about what resources you have available there and what that process is. Before getting into that, I did want to take a couple of minutes here and go through some of the different resources that you have available through IAMS. First up, we've got our new producer builders. You can see here I've got a number of different point totals on the screen. And when you get contracted with us in your first 6 months, you automatically get enrolled into our new producer bonus program. And so this is a great way for us to partner with you. You can see we've got a variety of different options up there. And you can cash in at any of those levels based off of your production. So if you've got questions on that, reach out and talk to a sales director over here. That phone number is 800-255-5055. In addition to that, we've got our referred producer program. If you know of an agent who maybe isn't quite happy with their current IMO relationship, or you just think they might be a really good fit for us, send them our way. Not only will you get a $50 bonus when that agent gets contracted, but on an ongoing basis, you can accrue revenue based off of their production. We'll take care of all of the service. There's nothing that you need to do. And so it's a great way to generate that supplemental income. And candidly, those are some of the biggest checks that we cut. But in addition to that, we also have our marketing reimbursement program. Again, this is a great way for us to partner with you. You can see up on the screen there, you accrue $100 for every $100,000 of indexed annuity premium. And then on the life insurance side, $200 for every $100,000 of single premium life, and $200 for every $10,000 of life target. So again, if you've got questions on that, reach out, talk to a sales director here. That number is 800-255-5055. Back office support, what I would tell you is that's been a cornerstone of IAMS for over, 38 years now. And so the team over here does an amazing job, whether it's pre-sale or once the business has been submitted. I know the topic of today's conversation is that post-sale new business process and underwriting process, but I would strongly encourage, if you haven't tested this out, you definitely need to. We've also got our IAMS portal, and there's a wealth of resources on there. We've got quoting software for annuities and life insurance. You can do e-applications on our platform. We've got a variety of different training and marketing modules on there. We also have our sales resource library, which literally has hundreds of point-of-sale pieces that you can instantly download and use with consumers. And so if you've got questions on how to get access to that, you just need to be contracted with us. You can reach out, talk to a sales director over here, and they can help you with that. Taking a deeper dive into the e-app solutions, you can see here we integrate with Firelight, iPipeline, as well as Sunfire. Firelight is going to be the majority of the annuity carriers and a handful of life companies. iPipeline is going to be primarily our life insurance carriers, and then Sunfire will be on the Medicare side. And just to give you, and we've got these lists for each platform, you can see here on Firelight the pool of carriers that integrates with. And so I think it makes it helpful to have all of that in one spot. And again, if you've got questions on that, reach out, talk to a sales director. Number is 800-255-5055. Creative marketing solutions, I think creative really is the key. I think now more than ever, your brand is critically important. And it's not to say that it hasn't been in the past, but I think one thing that has evolved is the importance of your digital brand. More and more agents and consumers are engaging in business online. And so it is a much more common thing in this day and age that a prospect will look you up and look at your website or look at your social media. And so having a strong, robust brand that articulates your mission and vision can certainly help with success. And so if you've got questions about our creative services, you can reach out and talk to a sales director. The other thing I would mention to you as well is we do offer a complimentary marketing analysis. This is where we'll go through what your goals are for the year, what the current marketing strategies look like that you're doing, and then what adjustments need to be made, and we'll put together a customized marketing plan for you. Absolutely free. You just need to talk to your sales director over here, and that number is 800-255-5055. We also have IAMS Wealth Management. We founded this firm several years ago, and it's because we've seen a growing trend in the marketplace to incorporate AUM into your business. And so Duncan and Charles and the team over there does an amazing job. And so if that's something that you've been thinking about, or maybe you are currently licensed and have your 65, but maybe not quite happy with your current relationship, give us a call. We're more than happy to chat with you and talk about some of the ways that we can help make a positive impact on your practice. In addition to that, we are excited. We've got our IAMS Life and Annuity Academies that we are going to be doing over the course of this year. We actually just finalized our first date, which is going to be May 15th through the 17th. And so I'll go ahead and I'll launch the first of 3 polls that we'll do today. And these events are really a great opportunity for you to spend some time working on your business, to get current on annuity trends, life insurance trends, hear from top advisors, and what are the current marketing trends that are out there. And so you'll walk away from that with a whole full of ideas that you can immediately implement into your business that can create a positive impact. And so if you have interest in that, make sure to check yes. They do fill up. We do several of these over the course of the year, but they do fill up rather quickly. So I'll go ahead and I'll get this closed down here. Lastly, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. We syndicate a lot of content out, and this is one of the best ways to get information from us as quickly as possible. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to our guest presenters. We've got Andrew Herrera and Matt Rise with North American on the horn with us. And as I mentioned, North American is shown over the years to be a consistently competitive company, both on the product design and innovation side, as well as on the underwriting side. They've done some very progressive things when it comes to underwriting. And so they're going to give us a nice deep dive into what their process is and some of the competitive advantages they have. So Andrew, Matt, I appreciate you guys taking some time with us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you, Curtis. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us. And let me know, Curtis, can you see the screen there?
I can, yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in this morning. We know it means a lot, right, to take time out of your day, out of your schedule, to jump on this and learn a little bit about North American as well as IAMS. And what, to Curtis's point, what we wanted to share this morning is really have a conversation about underwriting, specifically underwriting at North American, and how what our philosophy is, right? How we look at cases, how to best position cases. We know that that's a big aspect of your job, right? You're out there in the field. And it's one thing to understand product and maybe understand the concept and the life insurance sale. But we know that one of the probably, if we're honest, I guess we can call it a hurdle. One of the hurdles with life insurance is that you have to deal with underwriting, right? And what does that look like? So hopefully our goal by the end of this conversation this morning is that you have a better understanding of what underwriting is, how life insurance carriers in North American specifically, how we look at cases, how we address certain things, and how you can best position business that you submit via IAMS, to be successful through underwriting. So I'm joined this morning with Matt Rise, who's one of our underwriting managers here at North American. Matt has been in the life insurance industry for a number of years, very seasoned underwriting experience. and obviously now into management here at North American. And so we'll jump right into it. Things that we'll cover today is obviously how we underwrite at North American and how you can best position cases for success as you're out there meeting with clients. So the first question I have for you, Matt, and I think it's something that would be beneficial to everyone that's tuning in here, is what kind of data do life insurance carriers use, right? How are life insurance carriers arriving? Because at the end of the day, what underwriting is, it's assessing the risk, the mortality risk that an individual has when they apply for life insurance, right? So we get an application on, Jane Doe or John Doe, and what data does North American use? Do the underwriters that report to you, what data are they looking at, Matt, to assess the risk on someone's life?
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. First, I'm going to address your earlier comment about the agents having to deal with underwriting. I like to think of it as that we get to work with agents in underwriting and getting that applicant life insurance. One of the most important things somebody can do in their life is apply for life insurance and provide for their family. I'm just teasing you, Andrew. I know what you meant. But yeah, as far as data that we use, so at North American, we really have two paths that a life insurance application can go down. We've got our right-of-way path, which is our automated underwriting path. And that's a heavily data-intensive process. It's behind the scenes and transparent to the field for sure. We use things like motor vehicle record. We use prescription records. We have some electronic reports that we can run that are run automatically. And those really help us triage that application and get that through as fast as possible if it meets that criteria. Which brings me to that second path. An application can go straight to right-of-way, or it can go to right-of-way, and then based on what data we get from that can be then moved to the traditional path where the underwriting is a little bit more hands-on. That application can also go straight to the traditional side as well if it comes in on a paper application or meets certain criteria. But those traditional requirements that we get, obviously, is for as long as there's been underwriting, we've been doing labs and exams. The lab work obviously has changed over the years as we have more data through our actuaries, as more advanced lab work becomes available to us. So those are two of the big ones that we get through that traditional underwriting path, as well as some less used ones like medical records, attending physician statements, depending on the history of your client. And in our data is really helps us provide that clear picture of your client and help us to efficiently and accurately underwrite that and get that first offer be the best offer out there for you.
Absolutely. And so it sounds like that given the two paths that North American has, right? You mentioned right-of-way, which is our accelerated underwriting program. Both channels, and correct me if I'm wrong, whether an applicant goes through the accelerated underwriting path or the traditional path, North American is still going to look at things like MVR, which is motor vehicle report, which I believe looks at driving history, maybe how many speeding tickets have I had, things like that. MIB, which we know is the insurance database, right? So they're going to say, has Andrew applied for life insurance in other carriers? Was Andrew declined last year, with another carrier? That's certainly important. Something we would want to know. A prescription check to say what medication is Andrew on, and has he disclosed everything, right? What if I said on the application that I don't take any medication, but a prescription check through that database, showed that I'm on cholesterol medication, high blood pressure medication, maybe diabetes medication. You mentioned APS, right? So, and you also mentioned that North American doesn't use APSs in every single case. I think that's one of the benefits of doing business with North American is less than a third of our cases are we actually ordering medical records because we're able to get so much data from all these other sources. In addition, of course, if you're going through the traditional underwriting route to getting blood and urine, and all the questions that are, of course, on the application that the client answers about their own health and lifestyle. All those kind of help put that picture together, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct, Andrew. And like you mentioned about the medical records, more and more, as we know, there's more data collected on us as individuals, and some of that is available to us to prevent or to help us not have to order those medical records. Things like a lab picture, so lab work that's been done at a client's doctor's office, we can pull that without having to without having to submit for medical records, or medical claims a report as well. That will also help us fill in those gaps that that medical records we might order otherwise. So that shortens the time frame down definitely. Yeah, waiting for medical records, as you know, can be a long process.
I think that is a really important point, because one question that we often get is, how long does this take? And we know, because we track our own data here at North American, and certainly even we track our data with North American specific to IAMS, is from the time an application, comes into North American to the time that we approve it with IAMS, it is averaging around 30 days, which is really competitive turnaround. And that is for traditional underwriting. So that's the path that Matt was talking about, that where we would have to do blood, urine, and a full underwriting evaluation. That is not the accelerated underwriting. What we've seen in the last 12 months via the accelerated underwriting route is, one, over 50% of our cases. In fact, the last data showed 54% of our cases were approved via accelerated underwriting, so long as they meet the age and face amounts. And we'll go over that a little bit later. But those cases we know are approved much faster, usually within 24, 48 hours. In fact, my own personal case that I did in 2023 on myself and my wife, we were approved within 24 hours from the time that we did the application. So I know firsthand that it works, and it works quickly. But yeah, I mean, it's true that we use all that data, but we're able to turn that around pretty quickly, even if someone goes through that traditional full underwriting route. So Matt, the second question I have for you is, what is North American's philosophy on underwriting? And so can you talk about this holistic approach that North American is known for?
Yeah, absolutely. Holistic underwriting. So I like to use an analogy to kind of explain this. I grew up in kind of rural Nebraska before there was internet, before there was binge watching Netflix, and I think we had 3 television channels, and 2 of them were PBS. So we didn't do a lot of that. We did, as a family, we did jigsaw puzzles. So, big 1,000-piece ones, we'd have them sitting out and do those. And the process of putting together a jigsaw puzzle reminds me of the underwriting process. So each piece in a jigsaw puzzle represents an aspect of that individual's life, their health, habits, family history, hobbies, and that sort of thing. So just like putting together a puzzle, holistic underwriting involves examining all of those pieces to see the full picture of someone's profile. So instead of just focusing on one piece at a time, like the cholesterol or build, we step back and we look at how all of those pieces fit together. Look for that pattern that's emerging. Are there many missing pieces that we can fill in the gaps with that could impact that overall picture? And by considering the entire puzzle, so we can more accurately assess the risk associated with insuring that individual. And just as a completed puzzle gives you a clear picture, holistic underwriting gives us a comprehensive understanding of that individual's risk, allowing us to make a more accurate and informed decision. We've all heard of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Well, in underwriting, we have something similar. It's called, I like to call it FOBO, so first offer, best offer. So that holistic approach really helps us get out of the gate with that first offer being the best offer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I saw that firsthand recently on a case where another carrier had looked at this case before, and they saw that the client was taking diabetes medication. And again, when you don't have that holistic approach, you just see that one piece of the puzzle, to use your analogy, and this other carrier had basically said, oh, we're going to view this client as a diabetic because the prescription, database shows that they're taking a diabetes type medication. And really just zoned in on that. And we were able to take that case and use the holistic approach that you're talking about. And we said, okay, that is only one piece of the puzzle. If we get all the pieces, as well as the client's, what the client is telling us, we found out that the client was not taking that diabetes medication for diabetes at all, because the client didn't have diabetes. In fact, they were taking it for weight loss, and their doctor prescribed it for weight loss. And we know that that's, we're seeing a lot of that right now with drugs like Ozempic and others. And so North American was able to underwrite that case holistically and say, we're not going to evaluate this client as a diabetic because they're not. We're just going to evaluate them based on everything else and knowing that they're, using a drug weight loss medication that's approved and their doctor has recommended. And so we were able to get a really competitive offer on that case because, to your point, we looked at it holistically.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The medications, there's a lot of off-label use that doctors prescribe them for. And yeah, and we like to dig in and see that whole picture rather than, making a snap judgment on something like that.
Moving on to a non-medical topic, but it's one that I've gotten a lot of questions, I would say, in the last several years related to foreign nationals, especially as we think about places across the United States where this might be more prevalent, as far as a business opportunity. And I think of places like Southern California or Florida, maybe some places in Texas. And so what's happening, what we're seeing is that there's a lot of wealthy individuals from other countries who end up coming to the United States for one reason or another. And a lot of times they get established here. Maybe they open a business here. Maybe they, buy real estate, whatever reason they're connected to the United States. And so oftentimes we find out these individuals aren't U.S. citizens, but they do live here now, right? This is their home for, that they would consider their home. They have bank accounts here in the United States. And so inevitably they are looking for life insurance. And North American is a carrier that can do life insurance on these individuals, based on the type of, visa that they have. We've even taken cases where they may not have a visa, but they have an ITIN, right? So if they're an ITIN holder, we can look at that. Or maybe they came here to study and they've stayed here. There's lots of different scenarios where, we can underwrite these individuals. But can you talk a little bit high level, Matt, about our foreign national guidelines in our program?
Yeah, again, I'd like to touch again on that holistic underwriting, right? We're not just looking at, somebody as a foreign national. Why are they here? How long have they been here? What kind of visa do they have? What's the occupation? The income, net worth, and those sorts of things to paint that whole picture of somebody. We do have some hard and fast guidelines on foreign nationals for sure, but we like to use that holistic picture to make a decision based on that whole picture rather than just that they're a foreign national. And as you can see on Andrew's slide here, we do have a very comprehensive guide to help you work through that. And we're obviously available to help with that as well. But we have recently expanded our guidelines and made them more favorable, so to include more visa types and countries, and just to take in and be able to offer more life insurance services to foreign nationals that reside in the United States.
Absolutely. And again, if you're tuning into this webinar and you're interested in the foreign national market, maybe you have clients that fall into this category, maybe you have prospects that fall into this category, don't hesitate to reach out to IAMS. reach out to your life insurance contact there, and they'd be happy to provide you with North American's 4 national guidelines. This pamphlet here that you're seeing on the screen, again, IAMS can provide that information to you. And if you have any questions on a potential case, feel free to reach out to IAMS or myself. We'd be happy to talk through that with you as well. So another thing is, I think about underwriting, Matt, it's, again, if I'm an agent or advisor on this call, a question I might have is, how do I best position my client for a successful underwriting experience? And as we look at this picture here, you can see this woman is sitting down and she's looking through a picture frame. And I've always thought about underwriting just like that, right? Like, an underwriter doesn't know this client at all. They've likely never met the person who's applying for life insurance. And so the only information that an underwriter has is what's provided to them, right? On the application, the questions that the client answered about their health and lifestyle, all those different data points we talked about, right? Motor vehicle record, prescription check, and everything. But that's still not enough a lot of times to give you a good picture of who that person is. And so what advice would you have for us, Matt, on how to best position the case for success?
Yeah, that's an excellent analogy, Andrew, and very apt. So if you think of somebody's life like a picture like this, you as the agent, you've met them, you know their family, you know their hopes and dreams and what they're trying to achieve, and you've built that relationship with them, right? You have that full picture, as Andrew said. So when the underwriter gets a life application, we've basically got we don't get a picture at all. We've got a black and white narrative, so to speak, in the form of an application and an exam and lab work and some of that other data we touched on before. But that doesn't provide the color, the vibrancy, the richness of that person's life. So we really rely on the field to help us fill in those gaps. And we may ask questions and have some follow-up. But the more information you can provide us with a cover letter, with fully completing that application and answering those questions on there, really helps us out the first time around to build that vibrant, colorful picture of that person. I like to think of agents as an extension of our underwriting department, right? The field underwriting department. You're the first one there to help us understand who your client is and what we need to know about them.
That's a great point. That agents and advisors are kind of an extension of the underwriting team and that first level, right? And to your point, they know the client best, or ideally, right? They do, and can help provide and some color and some additional context to that underwriting process. When I think of positioning cases for success, I always think of tools that we have here at North American to help agents and advisors with the underwriting process. What we're seeing here is, on the left is our life insurance underwriting guidelines that North American has, and on the right is our medical reference library. Again, these are two different PDF documents that you can reach out to IAMS, and they'd be happy to provide these documents to you. The new business life underwriting guidelines on the left, Matt, I know there's a lot of information there, like build charts. How can an agent best use that tool as they go through underwriting?
Yeah, that is an excellent resource. And in fact, every single underwriter on North American has a physical copy of that. And that's what we use for our guidelines and in underwriting, in addition to our underwriting manuals and things like that. But that underwriting requirements guidelines is going to answer and provide about probably 85 or 80 more % of the information we're going to need to underwrite that applicant. So just going through there, we've got the age and amount requirements. So if you have a 35-year-old applying for $3 million, you're going to know exactly what requirements we're going to be looking for. The exam, labs, and I believe at $3 million and up, we'll need a financial statement as well. So that will tell you in there, so you're able to be proactive in that and provide that information upfront at application, so there's not a lot of going back and forth. It has what is needed to qualify for preferred and super preferred, which are our best class designations for applicants. It also has a, like Andrew said, a build chart in there. We recently updated our build chart so that there's no more male and female build sections. There's just one section. So everybody is assessed essentially based on our male build guidelines. That'll let you know where they'll fall, and if and if it's somebody who may be rated, what rate that may be on there as well. And as well, it's got our senior, so 71 plus guidelines. But we'll need to underwrite that. As well as financial guidelines, which are excellent. That'll really help you position financially a case. One of the things we see a lot is sometimes that a applicant has been undersold life insurance. They really need more than they applied for, and they qualify for more than they applied for. We do our best to catch those and let you know, hey, they can qualify for more life insurance. Just let us know and we'll increase the policy. But you can get ahead of that with our financial guidelines in there. Was there anything I missed, Andrew? Any more detail you'd like?
No, I think that, I mean, that's a lot of information that's packaged in that underwriting guide. And again, I think it is a very useful tool to have if you're writing, life insurance through IAMS and through North American. Like you mentioned, things like knowing what requirements my client is going to have to go through or provide based on their age and how much they're applying for. Just having a general idea of, based on the build alone, right? If my client is 5'8" and 210 pounds, where are they going to land? I mean, having that build chart there to look at, I mean, just based off the build, what their underwriting risk class would be. You mentioned, the super preferred guidelines on there, right? If the client had both parents die, when they were young of diseases and issues that are likely genetic, we'll know then that that's probably going to knock them out from best risk classes. The financial aspect, right? If my client is 35 years old or 55 years old, and this is their income, how much life insurance can they apply for, right? And again, having that cheat sheet there really helps you and guides you as an agent or producer to see, how much life insurance can my client apply for. And if they have a sizable estate, what's the maximum estate based off their estate value? What's the maximum that North American can insure? So the life insurance guide, again, is a very useful tool. I would encourage all of you to, if you want the link to get there, if you want the PDF document, just reach out to IAMS or us here at North American. Be happy to provide that to you so you can have that handy. Now, on the right is a different tool that we have. Again, we can provide it to you electronically. It's a medical reference library. And the really neat thing about this tool is you can look up a number of medical issues, diseases, diagnoses, and see a general idea of, how might North American underwrite that person. And so, Matt, if you can read the screen here, I think, this example is under the B's. Maybe walk us through, I'll pick on the bipolar disorder. If you can, I don't know if you can see that or not, but if you can you walk us through how someone might use that, let's say if they had a client who had bipolar disorder?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to our, metaphor of the picture or painting the painting, right? This is going through this. If somebody, says, hey, I'm being treated for bipolar, we can pull this up and you can help us fill in those gaps in there with this. How severe is it? So some of the things that might tell us how severe bipolar disorder is, how much work have they missed? Have they been on disability? Are they seeing a psychiatrist versus a psychologist? So, and then again, treatment. What medications are they taking? How often are they going to see their, a psychologist or psychiatrist? Are they, in some other sort of therapy? And just working down those bullet points really help us paint that picture, get you an accurate offer the first time around. As we know, the faster we get an offer out, the more likely you're able to place that. So filling in those gaps by using that medical reference library really helps us right out of the gate, set the tone and get this application underwritten accurately and as efficiently as possible.
Absolutely. And so I think a good way to think about it is that column on the left are really questions that you, the agent producer, can ask the client to fine tune where we might land on this. And then the columns on the right are a general guideline of where we might land as far as underwriting. And so again, if I'm an agent, I have a client who's got bipolar disorder, I would sit down and say, hey, let's walk through this, right? When have you had treatment? Let's get the dates. How long are those treatments? Have you ever been hospitalized? History of substance abuse? Any past suicide attempts? And that way you can provide that information to North American. And then again, on the right, if it's mild, we could be, maybe table 2. If it's moderate, potentially table 4, so on and so forth. But another thing I would advise you that you can do is, if you have a client, again, we're just picking on bipolar disorder, but it could be any number one of medical issues that they might have or past medical history, you can ask these questions, get as much data as possible. And if you're thinking, you know what, I don't want to submit an application yet because I don't know where the client might land. I don't want my client to be bothered by going through the underwriting process only to find out that, their offer might be X, Y, Z. And so something you can do before you even go through that application process is get this information, ask these questions, and then submit it to IAMS. IAMS has the ability to quick quote to get a general underwriting assessment on an individual based off information, right? So if you provide IAMS the information saying, hey, we've got, I've got a 55-year-old client, here's her build, here's the medication she said she's on, here's the history of bipolar disorder, whatever it is. And then IAMS can submit that to North American. North American will look at that and say, you know what, based on this, we're targeting, table 2 or standard, whatever it is. And then now you have that information and you're armed with that, and you say, okay, now that I know where the client might likely land from a underwriting perspective, now we can move forward with the application. So it kind of helps alleviate you having to get an application first, going through underwriting and saying, oh my gosh, I can't place a table 2 case, or the client, the pricing doesn't work at standard or whatever it is. So again, it saves everyone time and efficient to do it much that way, to ask the questions ahead of time. And so I would encourage you, again, if you don't have access or don't have that tool, that medical reference library or the underwriting guide, those are both tools that IAMS can provide you and very useful as you meet with your clients. Matt, we've got a kind of a 4-step process here, again, as we're wrapping up this conversation on positioning cases for success. Walk us through, what maybe a fact finder, if an agent or a producer has one of those, maybe they don't have a formal fact finder as part of their business practice, but what are some of the questions that you think are good to ask up front when you're meeting with a client?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big ones, obviously tobacco use. That's a big delineator there for where they're going to land, and probably one of the toughest ones if we don't know it up front, that after it's we approve it tobacco and it was submitted as non-tobacco. That's a tough one. So knowing that up front helps you set that expectation, right away. Any medications that they're on, is history of surgeries, and things like that. And then again, part of that fact finder, should be that financial qualifications, right? Setting that expectation for that. So, with that fact finder, setting the client's expectations, use that field underwriting guide. cross-reference the build in there, the medications, family history, working through that. And then that really will help set your client's expectations. I know we've all been in that same boat, that when we've got a higher expectation and then that expectation isn't met, that's a very disappointing, process. So if we can set an accurate expectation in the field to begin with, and then when we come back with that offer that matches that, that's awesome. Or if we come back with an offer that's better, even better for you, right? So setting those client expectations based on that fact finder and based on the field underwriting guide. Number 3, submitting a cover letter. Again, painting that picture, going back to that, a cover letter really helps us understand the client. So especially when they have complicated medical history or it's a complex financial case, detailing that out goes a long way. Not only that, it helps your application stand out. We don't get a whole lot of cover letters, and so when somebody takes the time to write that out and help fill in the gaps for us, that means a lot. And it goes a long way to helping the underwriter build trust in that relationship with you and the client. And then again, number 4, work with IAMS. They're there to support you. They've got, as Andrew said, access to quick quotes, our 4 national guidelines, any sort of avocation questionnaires, they can help source those for you, and really, get that application set straight out of the gate for success.
Absolutely, thank you. And I think you're right when you're talking about setting clients' expectations. I think it's important to remember that standard is not necessarily a bad word. I think a lot of times in our industry, standard has become a bad word. But when we think about standard, all that really means is that your mortality is normal, right? It means that you're expected to live to the normal life expectancy at standard. And above standard, so when we think about preferred and super preferred, that's kind of an added bonus. If you've got a healthier lifestyle, if you're doing all the right things, taking care of yourself. But not every client is super preferred, nor should we be quoting every client as super preferred, because we know that there's going to be a lot of clients that get upset, if we quote everyone as super preferred and they come back, preferred or standard, or less than we quoted them. So I think that's why it's important, again, to ask the questions up front, to utilize the tools that you have at your disposal. Say, okay, here's where we think the client might land, and then quote them appropriately based on that. And to Matt's point, if they come back better than expected, that's great. But I think the client would be happier knowing that they got better than expected than worse than they expected. A cover letter, I know that it's probably not feasible on every single case to do that, but certainly on more complicated cases, the one that I mentioned earlier, where the client was taking diabetes medication for weight loss, thankfully we got a cover letter with that explaining, and that helped the underwriter really see the bigger picture. I think of another case I had recently on a college student, and they were underweight again. And if you look at just that piece of the puzzle, you say, oh my gosh, they're actually they weigh less than they should based on their height, and that could potentially be an adverse underwriting decision. But we got a cover letter explaining why this person was underweight, telling us about how they're a track star, all the sports they're involved with at a collegiate level. And the underwriter, again, took that holistic approach and was able to say, yeah, they may be underweight by a pound or two, but the bigger picture that we're able to see in the cover letter, things that you don't get on an application, right? The context that you don't get, adding some additional color so we can understand that applicant better, that helped the underwriter provide a very competitive offer. I think, we got best class on that case I'm thinking of. Again, because of that cover letter, we were able to get that additional information. And all these things that we're talking about, the IAMS team can help, support you in all these efforts, and certainly work with us as well behind the scenes to help improve how you field underwrite, to help coach you through any of this, really to help partner with you as you continue to build your life insurance business. So Matt, one thing that I think is important is being able to do business electronically. I think that's a given now that any life insurance carrier, you ought to be doing business this way. We think about the e-app, the online part 2, accelerated underwriting, e-signature, e-delivery. Can you walk us through online part 2? Because I think that is one where a lot of people have questions about what is the online part 2. Now, from a technology standpoint, I'll kind of tee it up for you. Obviously, the e-application is done online. And I think about my own experience my wife and I had when we got North American Life Insurance in 2023. Within minutes of the e-application being submitted, we got a link that was emailed to us, which was the online part 2. We clicked on that link. I think I did mine on my iPad, and my wife might have done hers on her cell phone. I mean, very easy, very user-friendly. And within 10 minutes, we each answered the questions. But what kind of questions does an online part 2 ask?
Yeah, so the online part 2 it replaces the exam, where we used to have an examiner come out and ask you all about your health history, your doctor, the medications, all of those things. The online part 2 replaces that. So that becomes that, the part 1 is the application. The part 2 is the medical questions, application questions. That becomes part of the life insurance contract after approval. So the online part 2, as Andrew said, is basically doing the exam, on the internet, online, instead of having to have an examiner come out to you in the either in the I believe we can do it in the agent's office, or be done at home. They're able to complete that and take their time doing it, look up their doctors, the medications, versus having to have someone sit there and fill out their answers for them. But yeah, this becomes part of the life insurance contract, and this is, and that's what we use to assess that portion of the application process for underwriting.
And I think it's a great point you brought up, that because the link is emailed instantaneously, if you're meeting with your client in person, they can get the link and you can help them, walk them through the online part 2. Or others, may want to keep that private. They may say, you know what, I'd rather complete this on my own. Again, my own personal experience, it only took about 10 minutes to go through. And you're right, it's questions about, are you, do you plan on scuba diving anytime? It asks, have you done anything in the last 10 years that may be dangerous, like skydive or whatever. But then there was some health questions about, in the last 5 or 10 years, that have you used tobacco or drugs, or have you had any cardiac issues? What medications? So to your point, it replaces a lot of those questions that an examiner would ask you in person. And I personally like the online part 2 instead of the examiner asking me kind of a lot of those personal medical questions. Moving on to accelerated underwriting. We know that North American has the program that is allowed for ages 18 to 50 for up to $2 million, and 51 to 60 for up to $1 million. And I talked earlier about how our approval rates are over 50%, far higher than a lot of other carriers with an accelerated underwriting program. What successes have you seen with that, Matt, in the years that we've had it?
Yeah, it basically really helps those qualified applicants that have excellent health and to go through the underwriting process in a seamless manner, without having to have an exam done, without having to have a blood draw, without having to get weighed and measured in front of the examiner and provide that urine specimen. So that accelerated underwriting process, and it really shortens down that approval process. Again, as we know, the quicker someone is approved, the more likely that you're able to place that case. So going through that accelerated underwriting process, equates to faster approvals, which equates to getting cases paid.
Absolutely. And again, if I think, going back to my own personal experience, the e-app, my wife and I got an online part 2 link emailed to us, completed that, took about 10 minutes. We got approved via accelerated underwriting within 24 hours. Everything we did was e-signed via North American's DocuSign process, and we got an e-delivered policy. Everything was completed within a week, and our agent was paid the very next day, because North American, again, is one of the few carriers that can pay commissions daily if you're not already set up that way. So a very easy process. If a client never really has to leave their home if they don't want to. An agent never has to leave their office if they don't want to. Again, and you can still do this whole entire process digitally with North American. Before I go to questions, just wanted to go over some of the stats related to our underwriting here at North American. I was looking at, how 2023 was overall at North American from an underwriting perspective, and I saw that the offers we made, and I think this speaks to what you were talking to, Matt, earlier about, not only are we very, holistic in our underwriting, but I think you said FOBO, first offer, best offer, right? We're trying to put out the best offers the first time around. Nearly 90% of the business at North American was approved standard or better in 2023. And that includes tobacco risk classes. I think it was just shy of 90. I think it was technically 89% was approved at standard or better. And nearly half of our business, so I think it was 48, 49%, was approved at preferred or super preferred. So the offers that we're making are very competitive, right? If you think about that, as your client applies to North American, knowing those, that data, there's probably a 90% chance that they can get a standard offer or better with North American. And I talked about our turnaround times earlier, as well as the high approval rates for accelerated underwriting. Anything else, Matt, that you think that I missed?
No, I think we covered everything pretty comprehensively, Andrew. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, there's, one question that I often get asked is, do you have any underwriting niches? And my response to that is always, what you talked about earlier, Matt, is that we don't really have a niche per se, because we underwrite holistically. We don't want to focus on one piece of the puzzle when we can look at the entire puzzle with all the pieces. But having said that, I know that we're really competitive with things like allowing a cholesterol to be, up to 300 and still offer best class, depending on what the ratio is. We allow up to 24 cigars in a year, and someone can still have, non-tobacco rates. We can get best class even if you have sleep apnea or history of anxiety. Marijuana is non-tobacco with North American. So there's a lot of areas, specifically where we're competitive. But I hope, as we leave you here today, that you remember that, one, we're a holistic carrier. We're going to look at the big picture. Two, we want to partner with you to make your process better, to make sure you're asking the right questions so that we can get the best offer for your client. And three, IAMS is one of the best, IMOs that we work with one of the best back offices. They've got case managers and support staff who can help you out, so we can position these cases for a high likelihood of success as well. So please utilize the IAMS team if you're not already. I encourage you to do that. So again, I know we're running short on time here. Curtis, we appreciate the opportunity, Matt and I, to be with you today, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm gonna launch the last poll that we've got here. So let me get this up. I think, as you've seen, North American is an incredibly competitive company. I mean, we consistently see them come up from a product design standpoint. And then I think what Matt and Andrew have been able to do today is really show you on the back end of that where they're competitive as well, and why they can help you get to that placement ratio. So if you'd like to get contract with North American, just check yes on the poll. The other thing too that I would say, and you guys kind of talked about this a little bit, but you're actually dealing with real people with North American. I mean, we can call up, we can talk to the underwriters, we can have a conversation around a case if we need to, which, the reality is we don't really have to do that. It's not the same as a lot of the other carriers. I mean, a lot of those carriers, we have to do a lot of back and forth, but to Matt and Andrew's point, they try and come back with their best offer out of the gate. And I think that's a really good positive thing to where we can make a good experience for the consumer. So in any case, Matt, Andrew, really appreciate you guys being on the call with us today. And for all of you that attended this, we are going to record it. We did reference a number of different pieces that you can use as a tool. So we'll certainly have the sales directors reach out to you if you want to get any of that. And hope everybody has a good rest of the day. Thanks.